Guys, stop talking. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to New Mayor, New Media, a mayoral forum presented by Hellgate and New York Focus with generous support from the Public Theater. My name is Katie Way, and I'm a worker owner at Hellgate. Hellgate and New York Focus are deeply invested in the future of local journalism in New York City and state, which means that we're also deeply invested in the race for who becomes the next mayor of New York City and what they intend to do for New Yorkers, which is why all of us are here tonight. We're going to spend the next hour putting these Democratic candidates through a ringer of our own design, and then we're going to be posing questions from you, our audience members. So if you pull out that little card that came in your program and grab a pen from one of the cups at the end of the aisles, wrestle around for that, write down your question you have for the candidates and your seat number, and then pass that over to one of the ushers for the night. Ushers, if you could wave your hands in the air. Those people. Okay, awesome. And don't ask anything weird. So before I introduce our candidates tonight, I have to make the plug. Hellgate and New York Focus both rely on our supporters to survive. If you have any appreciation for what we're doing here tonight, please know that it would not be possible without the people who pay to read or support the work that we produce. If you aren't already, please consider supporting us financially. And if you're already a subscriber, but you really want some merch, please check out our tables in the lobby after the forum is over. And by the way, after the forum is over, please join us for a drink and a chat at the library bar, which is located on the Public Theater's first mezzanine. So one note about tonight's participants. We wanted this forum to focus on the candidates most likely to factor into New York City's ranked choice voting primary system. As such, we only invited candidates for the Democratic primary who garnered at least 5% support in polls conducted in April or May. Two candidates who did qualify, former Governor Andrew Cuomo and City Council Speaker Adrian Adams, aren't here tonight. Speaker Adams had a fundraiser to attend, and Cuomo's team never directly responded to our invitations. So, tonight's forum will be moderated by Hellgate's Chris Robbins, New York Focus's Akash Mehta, and me. Okay, without further ado, candidates listen. Please welcome to the stage former comptroller Scott Stringer, great. Current comptroller Brad Lander, and Assemblymember Zaran Mamdani.
Stools.
Wow.
Damn. Okay.
Okay.
We've done all the kinds of chairs.
So we're going to run through 4 sections here. We want to be as concise as possible and respect the time limits we give you to talk. So we're going to politely intercede if you go over the time limit, and if that happens, then Katie will use the air horn, and we do not want to have to use that air horn indoors.
Please don't make me use this.
Can you do it once just so we know?
It's not mace, is it?
Is everyone okay with that?
Go for it. That's
So
right.
again, please, please be concise. Thank you.
I'm most likely. I'm telling you this right now. They know.
Okay, so we're going to jump right in. We want you to imagine that you're already the mayor of New York City and provide an answer to a random scenario that we'll present you with. Many of these scenarios have actually happened to a New York City mayor. So our colleague Rick Paulus is going to come around. He's there on stage left, I believe, with a special scenario device. Please pick a piece of paper out of the device. Very good. Each piece of paper has a number that corresponds with a unique scenario. So you'll tell us your number and we'll give you the scenario. And you'll have 60 seconds to answer these questions. One last thing, each of you have one opportunity to answer someone else's scenario. Disagree with what they said? Feel like you could do better? Raise your hand, and we'll let you give your own answer in 30 seconds. Everyone understand we good with the parameters there? Cool.
All right, Comptroller Lander, we will begin with you. What number?
All right, rank Brad Lander number 1.
All right. All right, Mayor Lander. 2 police officers are killed in a tragic incident. Rank and file cops believe you are to blame for their deaths. At NYPD graduation ceremonies, thousands of police officers turned their backs on you while you're speaking. Many refuse to look at you in the eye when you talk to them on the street. And it's clear from the arrest numbers that the police are engaging in an illegal work slowdown. What do you do?
First of all, let me just say thank you. Can we give it up for Hellgate and MIS Focus and the Public Theater? I am tempted to just start doing Shakespeare instead of answering the scenario. But look, this happened. It's a very serious issue. You have to hold police accountable for their work, for their jobs, for their responsibility in New York City. And 2 officers have just been killed in the line of duty keeping New Yorkers safe. And people are pissed off. So, one, what I would do is with my police commissioner, go out and do a series of listening tours, both inside precincts, talking to officers, trying to make clear, the mayor has their backs, and when officers are killed, there is going to be accountability. And also be going out and doing town halls in neighborhoods with community violence interrupters. I don't know enough about what the scenario is that kind of led to whatever the disagreements are, and just demonstrate all New Yorkers want safety and they want accountability. And they want accountability when people commit crimes.
Right,
they want accountability when officers abuse force.
That's time.
Great. And as a reminder, the other candidates have 1 opportunity to respond to another candidate's scenario.
Okay. Mr. Stringer, what's your number there?
Number 8.
Number 8. Okay.
Rank.
It's day 1. It's day 1 of your mayorship, and your climate advisors give you the bad news. New York City gets 85% of its energy from fossil fuels. The cancellation of offshore wind projects and upstate transmission lines means there is no realistic way we could build enough renewable energy to cut that to 0 in the next 15 years, as required under state law. They do think there's one potential solution: reopening Indian Point, the nuclear power plant responsible for the vast majority of New York's carbon-free energy before Andrew Cuomo shut it down. What's your position?
Well, as the controller who divested $4 billion from fossil fuel, I believe that we have to prioritize climate change in the city. And if I was confronted with that situation, I would put that on the table. I would say to you that while we're trying to be realistic, I also think that we wouldn't get there. I think we've made great strides opposing pipelines and looking at alternative energy sources. And hopefully, if there was a crisis like this, hopefully my plan to put a solar panel on every roof and a battery in every basement, that we would be way ahead in terms of our climate goals.
So it's on the table to turn Indian Point back
If you told me right now we were about to implode our planet and have storm surge and the like, obviously as mayor you would have to put painful options on the table as well, or different options.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Mamdani.
Number 7.
You're not in such good shape.
All right.
Congratulations, Brad.
I'm leaving after this question. I already won.
It is January 1st, 2026, and you are rolling out your agenda for the first year of your mayoralty. One of your biggest priorities is truly universal, hassle-free childcare for all New Yorkers who need it.
Sounds great.
Hours after your inauguration speech, you get a call from the governor who is telling you that the state funding for this initiative just can't happen this year. The budget's too tight, the economy is too uncertain, maybe next year. Neither of the 2 legislative leaders are returning your phone calls. What's your strategy for getting Albany to budge?
I have gone through a similar experience as a state legislator when I first got to Albany in 2021. One of the most pressing demands at that time was fully funding our public schools and fulfilling the campaign for fiscal equity. And in order to do so, we needed to raise billions of dollars in new taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. And we had a governor, then Governor Cuomo, who hated anything to do with tax justice when it came to our state's fiscal policy. And even though he was opposed to it fundamentally, publicly, and privately, we built a campaign that had enough support, not simply across the legislature, but also using the avenues we had to build public support, that he eventually relented and we raised $4 billion in new taxes. Now, the mayor of New York City has been described as having the second largest bully pulpit in America. There is an opportunity to use that bully pulpit in a manner other than what Eric Adams has done, which is simply to fearmonger about civil rights protections.
Time.
Okay, let's have another round of scenarios. Let's bring the scenario device back out, and you can give Rick your scenario that you have already used. Okay, Comptroller Lander, what do you got?
Better not be one.
Number two. I'm taking all the
Okay. President Trump has just announced he will unilaterally claw back all of New York's federal funding, some $7 billion. Your lawyers are already at work fighting the move in court, but your deputy mayors and finance commissioner agree you need to find savings fast. Name 2 programs or agencies you'd cut in this scenario, or other significant ways to save the city money.
Yep. So I've been at work on this since, honestly, the day he got elected. We put out the report that identified where all these funds are. When Musk came and stole $80 million out of New York City's bank account, should have been the mayor who found it, my office who found it, forced the law department into court. We're going to have a mayor who stands up and fights and who knows what our legal standing is, so we are in court. Now, where can we save? There are ways we can save. First, I have proposed creating a $1 billion general reserve against Trump and $1 million more in our rainy day fund, so we will have the resources in place to keep things going, not have to make people homeless, not have to stop providing health care. And the biggest place I want to find savings is in claims against the city. Last year we paid over $2 billion out for traffic crashes caused by city vehicles, for police misconduct, and I've got a plan for making it so that our agencies bring those things down so we could save most of that $2 billion.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani, you want to answer that differently?
Yeah, I think one thing that I would add is in order to be able to weather these kinds of cuts and the threats of these cuts, we need to also establish more fiscal independence. And what that means to me is raising $10 billion in new taxes, specifically matching the corporate tax rate of the radical socialist utopia of New Jersey, which is 11.5%, which raises $5 billion, raising taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers who earn $1 million or more every year by a flat 2% increase, which is $4 billion. That is also the way in which we can weather these kinds of cuts and not force ourselves into some of these choices.
That's time.
And just very quickly, for the comptroller and former comptroller, do you agree with that tax plan?
I mean, that takes you back to your prior scenario. To do any of those things will take a vote of the legislature. So I did propose creating an emergency committee between the city and the state to deal with this scenario. It really depends. If they've raised the SALT cap, honestly, it would be great to take back half of what the SALT cap's going to put in the pockets of the wealthiest New Yorkers.
Got it.
But you'll have to get Albany on board, or you can't get one penny of that money.
And Mr. Stringer?
I understand. I understand the worthy goal behind the thought, but given my experience in Albany and as city controller, that is a fairy tale scenario that we shouldn't count on.
Okay, thank you. And what number do you have?
This is getting really ugly fast. 9.
Number 9. All right, you are taking the subway, Mayor Stringer,
Yes.
to an event in Queens when you spot a person on the platform who is shouting obscenities at passerby, wearing dirty clothing, and pacing in circles. There are 2 cops on the other end of the platform. Do you call them over to take this person to the hospital?
It really depends on their lived experience at the moment. If I really thought that they were a danger to themselves or somebody around them, but
And how would you determine that?
Let me say, but in your scenario, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the case. Hopefully, I could do what I've done previously when I've taken my kid on the subway, and a homeless person was sleeping with a bag of his belongings, and almost sleeping on my leg. And my son said to me, "Dad, aren't you worried?" And I said, "No, he's just homeless. He needs help." And I think that should be the care approach before whistling over a cop and getting them involved in what is intervention or interaction that wasn't necessary. Look, I want to make sure that we have the largest mental health initiative below ground that this city has ever seen. I think we can get there. I think we need somebody with experience to reimagine some of these agencies and break down the silos. But look, I ride the subways taking my kid to school. I've seen some very, very, not dangerous, very tough situations for people who are dying in front of us.
Mr. Lander, yeah.
Yeah, so the number one commitment I've made in this race is to end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness. And you have to get out there before these incidents. And the plan to do that I put on the web. It's called Safer for All. What we're not doing now is reaching out to people with a housing first model that says before they're in crisis, we have a supportive housing or single room occupancy unit, which you can get into tonight without going to shelter first. But Mayor Adams has refused to do that. It works 70 to 90% of the time to reduce scenarios like this one.
Mr. Mamdani, what number do you have?
I'm climbing in the polls. I'm at 6 now.
Okay. One morning, at a meeting with your top staff, you learn that ICE has used information obtained from the NYPD to deport a woman from Brooklyn. The woman was living in the United States on a student visa and had no criminal record except for one sealed arrest for jumping a turnstile 6 months ago. Your first deputy mayor has confirmed with the NYPD that they did, in fact, share this sealed arrest information with ICE. How do you respond?
With accountability. That is unacceptable. And I think, as you're saying, and you've said with every single one of these scenarios, it's not simply an intellectual exercise. This is real, that's happening right now. And I think you figure out who made that decision, and you take every single step to not only ensure that it never happens again, but you hold that person accountable. And I think that that also means working with your commissioner to fundamentally understand, has this ever happened before? Is this part of department policy? How did this take place? Because I think so many New Yorkers have a hard time really feeling the trust that is necessary in our police department to deliver public safety because of instances and actions just like this. And it's easy to think that repression is only coming from Washington, but there are a lot of institutions across the city that are echoing that same repression, whether it be on college campuses or whether it be in the police department's responses to those very protests on those campuses.
Okay. I just want to say that this scenario is all too real for everyday New Yorkers, especially kids. I remember when I was a state assembly member being arrested for civil disobedience and had an outstanding warrant for my arrest that I didn't know about because I was putting up campaign posters in the middle of the night. I can't believe I just said this in front of all these people. And I have to tell you something. Given the privilege I had, elected official, it took months to get that corrected and adjudicated, and came this close to spending 3 days in jail because it was on a Friday. And I think the mayor has to use the expertise in bully pulpit to make sure that whether it's ICE or whether it's our own law enforcement agencies, that we don't let our kids in particular go through the cracks and have very bad experiences that could lead to a lot of problems with student loans and the like.
I heard you were ripping down someone else's posters. That wasn't true.
They never got me for that.
Okay, Rick, you have the scenario device. Bring the scenario device forth again. Thank you. Amazing. Last round of scenarios.
Are y'all having fun?
Having a great time.
All right, and Mr. Mamdani, we'll start with you.
Number 4.
Number 4. A developer wants to build a 10-story building on an abandoned manufacturing site. It's one of the city's ritziest neighborhoods, which has resisted building new housing for decades. The developer has agreed to make 30% of the units affordable. But there's a catch. The building will cast a shadow on a beautiful garden, the pride of the neighborhood. The local community board and council member are adamantly opposed. Do you weigh in, and how?
When I was running for assembly, one of the first things that I did was go to the Building Standards Appeals hearing to speak up in support of the Ali Fournet Center when they wanted to build supportive housing for homeless LGBTQ youth. And there was community pushback because of this very exact reason, shadows being cast on gardens. And ultimately, I do not, there are many people in that neighborhood who had spent a long time saving up for that house and they had a picture of what life would be like. But ultimately, we need to build more housing. We especially need to build more affordable housing. And that is more important than preserving the visibility of those gardens. So yes, I would weigh in. I would also tell those developers that they should build higher with the union labor and actually have more affordability within their construction than just that 30%.
Mr. Lander, what do you got?
I drew the straight. I got number 3.
Your cell phone rings. It's the president of a prominent private university located in Manhattan. They're calling because a group of students has pitched tents on school property for 2 weeks, and they are refusing to leave. They haven't engaged in any violence. The university president wants you to send in the NYPD to clear the students out. What do you say?
I say those are time, place, and manner restrictions of your private university, and you're going to have to deal with it with the tools of your university because those folks haven't broken the laws of New York City, and I am not going to escalate this situation or violate their rights by sending the NYPD in for your time, place, and manner restrictions. Let's figure out how to... And I honestly think in my head, if that had happened, the world might be different today. That situation could have been de-escalated, I think, and we'd be living in a better world if that's what the mayor of New York City had done.
All right, thank you. Mr. Stringer, I saw you nodding. Do you agree with that?
No, I was just happy I was turning to number 5. No, I'll be happy to answer. I do agree with what Brad said. Look, every situation is different, but we have to get back to the notion that it is good and it is necessary in our democracy to have protests. Look, I remember when I organized the anti-KKK protest in this city. I believe fundamentally these horrible human beings had the right to protest with a permit, and we as New Yorkers had the right to protest against them. And that is the best part of our democracy. We should never shy about a give and take as long as it's safe.
Yeah. Okay. The governor's office is calling with some great news. A tech billionaire has decided to locate their company's brand new headquarters in New York City. They say this would mean 60,000 jobs and tens of billions of dollars in potential economic activity. In return, the tech billionaire wants $4 billion in tax subsidies over the next decade. The governor wants to announce the project in 48 hours. Are you in?
No. And by the way, if that tech billionaire wanted to put a helicopter, right, to land in that location, just saying if that was part of the scenario, I would say, and I did say no. That does not mean, however, that I believe that we should not continue to attract business and talent to this city, but also a strong mayor who has experience in negotiation, land use, and zoning, has to understand that there has to be a real negotiated give and take. We opposed that at the time because it wasn't a real negotiation. It was my way or the highway. And by the way, they were, I think in retrospect, let's just say the scenario plays out, but this is my lived experience with Astoria and Zoran Mandami people. The truth is, they were just playing us. They were looking for a different deal elsewhere. They ended up relocating here anyway in a lesser place. So I would not have caved in 2 weeks. And the governor, I don't think would say that to a mayor.
That's time. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I'm going to move on, but you will have a chance to actually, maybe right now. Now is your chance to ask each other candidate one question. And actually, yeah, we're at.
Well, you get one question.
One question. So each one of you can ask one other candidate one question. You'll get 30 seconds to ask your question, and the candidate will get 60 seconds to respond. And we will begin with Mr. Mamdani.
Brad, my friend, what is the worst thing that Andrew Cuomo did when he was the governor?
Right.
Wait, T.
Ranked from 5th worst to 1st worst. Coordinated illegally with his super PAC, which yesterday took $1 million from DoorDash to screw deliveristas. Has failed every single time he's been offered to stand up to Donald Trump on healthcare, education, reproductive rights, or anything else. sent thousands of seniors to nursing homes, undercounted it illegally in the Department of Health, lied to their families, and lied to Congress, forced taxpayers to spend $60 million on his legal bills, including sending subpoenas for the gynecology and therapy records of his accusers, and sexually harassing those 13 women in the first place.
And would you like to ask a question?
All right, Scott.
Mr. Controller.
Let's see, the second to last one, the second one I gave there is about his reticence to stand up to Trump, which I've been surprised by, like he's supposed to be a bully, and yet he hasn't really one time been willing to criticize Donald Trump. Like, is that because he needs to seek a pardon if he's accused of federal crimes? Is that because he still remembers the bachelor party to which he invited Donald Trump and they're just like bros from the old days?
Oh, don't hurt him.
Or is that because he thinks, he'll really be good for New York City?
If this doesn't work out for you, you're going to be a staff writer for Focus and for Hellgate, I got to tell you. He's good. He's good. Look, I find it incredible that this governor is playing this dangerous Eric Adams dance with Trump. You got to be true to yourself, because I believe that Andrew Cuomo knows that this presidency is coming after urban America, and he's going to use New York City as the example. We all know that Trump is a schmuck, and we can't let him in our city, and the mayor has to be the first line of defense. So I think you outlined legitimately a good question by Zoran about Cuomo, but I don't believe that he should in any way be the mayor during a Trump presidency. We're asking for a lot of trouble, folks, and we have to stop it.
Thank you.
I like all the cursing in Yiddish also. That's a good part of this mayor's race.
And Mr. Stringer, would you like to ask a question?
Actually, to Zoran, when I got elected to the state assembly, I eventually chaired the city's committee. You come to appreciate when you run for city office just how much the future of New York is really in Albany's hands. No matter how you slice it, dice it, charter revision, back and forth, it really does matter. So I guess for you, as you embark on this campaign, what do you view as sort of the Adams, even the Cuomo mistake in terms of understanding that relationship and how whoever the next mayor is can make that better from
That
your
has to be the
assembly
question.
perspective?
There you go.
It's been quite surprising to see just how late Eric Adams starts his advocacy in Albany. There's some years when you think that he's not even coming, because you have no sense of what the city's priorities are. And as you've said, the city is a creature of the state. Any mayor whose vision has a real kind of ambition will require the state's partnership. And ultimately, what I've seen Eric Adams do, the mistakes I think that he's made, is that every year he's come to us at varying points in the budget process, ultimately around the same thing, criminal legal process. He wants to roll back bail reform. And every year he makes the case that if he gets the one single thing he's fighting for, the next year we're going to see public safety like never before. And every year he returns with a new tweak and a new turn and a new rollback. And it has just shown us how bankrupt this mayor's vision is, not only for public safety, but also for our city, because there have been so many policies of immense importance that he has never weighed in on, and that would change when I'm the mayor.
Seems like a great time for this section. We're going to switch things up a little bit. So in the 2021 mayoral election, Andrew Yang endorsed his opponent, Catherine Garcia, with just 3 days left in the primary. The cross endorsement almost worked. Garcia lost to Eric Adams by just 7,000 votes. In that election, more than 140,000 votes were not filled out with all 5 choices. If a little more than 5% of those voters had also ranked Garcia, she would have won. This is what ranked choice voting is all about: candidates promoting each other and the ideas and values that they share for the greater good. Currently, in this race, this man, Andrew Cuomo, currently holds a commanding lead in the Democratic primary. Nearly 20% of voters are still undecided. But so far, no one in this race has made any explicit cross endorsements. So, right here, right now, is anyone on stage willing to make any cross endorsements tonight?
For real.
Right now? No? Okay.
You won't?
Is anyone on stage willing to give us their own?
Were you gonna say something?
I mean, don't rank Andrew Cuomo anywhere in your top 5 choices. I hope you'll rank me first, and I hope you'll rank other candidates, including the ones on stage, and not Andrew Cuomo.
And is anyone ready to share their ballots? Does anyone, if you guys know who you're voting for right now? You wanna?
Look, my view is, I would say 2 things about this, and I'm serious about this. I really want to spend time thinking who I really believe would be the second best mayor. I think there has to be a little thought about the role you could play if it can't be you, and I take that seriously. Second, I think we are over-strategizing the strategy. I think there's different phases to a campaign, and I think this phase is to go through the process we've all gone through, going to 25, 30 some odd forums and making a case to the voters. This is the closest I've gotten to Andrew Cuomo in this campaign. Hello, Andrew. Nice to have you here. The voters are going to begin to sort this out. And then I think as the campaign goes on, I think people will look at the politics of this. I can tell you, when I beat Eliot Spitzer, although he came to debates and engaged, the thing that we did was look at the fact that we were 25 points behind with 3 weeks to go. And the voters figure it out. So I just have a little more faith and a little more patience. I don't think we have to do that tonight.
Not gonna, yeah, yes?
No, I'm not
Mr.
going to be making
Mamdani,
one
no?
tonight.
Okay.
But I am committed to making one before Election Day because I think it's critically important. While I do believe that we have the best chance of defeating Andrew Cuomo, we have to run our campaigns in a manner that lifts all boats to defeat the right, because that's where Andrew Cuomo is running from, and as well as the suburbs. And we have said, don't rank Andrew. And I think the other thing I would just add is that in 2021, there was a lot of fear-mongering around ranked choice voting and the utilization of all 5 choices, specifically to New Yorkers of color. And I also especially heard it a lot in immigrant communities. And I've had a lot of uncles and aunties who voted for Eric Adams last time around and who were basically instructed to only vote for one candidate, to bullet vote. And one of the things that I've been doing is, half of my coalition, I would say, spends each day deciding who's going to be in the full 5. The other half does not. And there are many who think of one as a point of pride. And what I've been telling each one is that we have to fill those ballots with all 5 choices. None of them can be Andrew. And as we get closer to the election, to say who should also be number 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you imagine if we'd waited until now?
Hey, you never know. You have to ask.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
If you really supported independent media, you would.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh. I want the New York Times to see me defending them now.
All right, so it's time for the lightning round. We have a bunch of questions on a variety of topics for you all to answer. You get 10 seconds each. So, okay. So first of all, should Kathy Hochul be the Democratic nominee for governor in 2026? Mr. Mamdani?
Inshallah.
Mr. Lander?
I mean, there's got to be a Democratic primary to make that decision.
Okay. And Mr. Stringer?
Look, it's always about who you're running against, but I think Kathy has a good record on a lot of issues, especially congestion pricing, but let's see who the opponent is. Could be Andrew Cuomo.
All right. Question number 2. Should cops give New Yorkers a summons for drinking a beer on their stoop? Mr. Mamdani?
No.
Mr. Lander?
No.
Mr. Stringer?
No.
Great. Unity.
And not on my
delicious.
stoop either, so you can come over and have it on.
All right. What is one thing that New York City has lost that you would like to see brought back? Mr. Mamdani?
Mars 2112.
Mr. Lander?
The Kentile floors sign.
And Mr. Stringer?
I would like the city to bring back the big events that we used to have in this town. No one sticks out, but I do think we need big events to show our mettle in this country and this nation.
What do you think we're at tonight? No, I'm just joshing. I'm just joshing. All right, so number 4.
Can I borrow that for a second?
So if the Trump administration pays billions to renovate Penn Station on the condition that it's renamed Trump Station, would you accept the offer, Mr. Mamdani?
Maybe.
Mr. Lander?
Can we decide everything else?
Sure.
Yes.
Mr. Stringer?
I think it's just never going to happen. I think he's full of it. You know, if every name he put on his building was successful, he wouldn't have been bankrupt half the time.
There you go. All right. So number 5, what is your favorite New York City movie, Mr. Mamdani? Better say something good.
Wow. The answer is always Mississippi Masala. No matter what the question is, I'm just gonna go straight. Do the right thing.
Mr. Lander?
Honora. Let's go with a modern classic.
For real? All right, Mr. Stringer?
My favorite New York Taxi Driver.
All right, and then last one from me. Y'all can stop sweating. What song do you love to hear blasted out of a car window on the streets of New York City? Mr. Mamdani?
Many Men by 50 Cent.
All right, Mr. Lander?
It's like Nick's season, so I'll say New York State of Mind.
All right, and Mr. Stringer?
Something that revs you up.
All right, well,
You gotta give a name.
All right. Move your body.
okay. I was looking for Pop Smoke, but that's okay. You guys so close, so
Come on.
close.
Okay, I got a few. We're going to start now with Mr. Stringer. What's the biggest mistake you've made on the campaign trail thus far?
In all the campaigns or just?
This one.
My kids would say run, but I would I would say the biggest mistake perhaps was maybe underestimating I thought we'd be farther along with Cuomo's numbers going down, and I wonder, you know, we just started our media campaign. Some of the candidates went a little early, so you know, I think about a little early. No, I mean this seriously, guys. I mean, you may be right, and I should have started a little early, so we're thinking about it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lander?
I agreed to walk around for 5 hours, long past my bedtime, with a Hellgate reporter
That's true.
In the middle of the night and lost my message discipline.
Damn. Support Hellgate.
I would do
Mam-
it again.
Mr. Mamdani?
Posting the photo of the burrito.
Okay. Name a member of the current New York Knicks who is not Jalen Brunson. Mr. Stringer.
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Mikal Bridges.
Okay.
Tips.
Okay. If the CCRB says that a police officer should be fired, will you or your police commissioner fire that police officer? Mr. Stringer.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
The population of New York City is currently 8.48 million. What should the population be in the year 2045? Mr. Stringer.
It's getting weird. I'm not the damn census director, but I will tell you that the aspirational goal we had not too long ago was a city of 9 million people. And while we saw that 87,000 have come back, I think the people that we're losing are not the billionaires. They just went out after COVID and bought a second home, and now they're coming back because they know that the mosquito states of Florida and Texas are not sustainable. And so I'm very serious about this. So the people who are leaving are the working people, the people who built this city. They're being forced to move out, and we also have to make sure we bring the next
Mr.
generation of
Stringer,
young
I'm
people
sorry.
in.
Yeah.
Mr. Lander.
40% of those 8.4 million are foreign-born. 50% of them live in mixed-status households, including 1 million children. That is the future of New York City. We better build more housing for them so that there is housing they can afford and be just as strong an immigrant city in 2045 as we are today.
Mr. Mamdani.
9.01.
Okay. Okay, last one from me. Mayor de Blasio was well known to enjoy his time at the Park Slope Y. Eric Adams prefers members-only clubs and his friends' restaurants. After you become mayor, where will New Yorkers see you on your days off? Mr. Stringer.
I don't see a lot of days off in the future, but you will see me in the parks spending time with my two amazing kids, my two 13-year-old and 12-year-old, and my wife. The family time as I've gotten older has become very important to me, and I'm never going to sacrifice that.
Mr. Lander.
This summer, the Delacorte Theater is reopening in Central Park, and I'm going to try like hell to be there on opening night. I mean, I'm going to actually once a month be in a New York City park, a library, and a cultural institution because it is the most incredible city in the world, and I will be having a lot more fun as mayor if I'm doing it.
Mr. Mamdani.
You'll see me on the train, you'll see me drinking Adani chai, and you will see me at my secret wife's art shows. If someone can find my two kids, let me know where they are.
All right. Okay. President Narendra Modi, and this will go to you first.
Come on.
Lander of India.
I was supposed to get Netanyahu, and he was supposed to get Modi. Didn't you get the memo?
You all get all of them, so.
Modi is holding a rally in Madison Square Garden. He wants to hold a joint press conference with you afterwards, reaffirming the strong bond between India and New York. Do you agree to the event?
No.
All right, Mr. Stringer
No.
and Mr. Mamdani.
No, and I just want to say something here, which is that my father, his family comes from Gujarat in India, and his family is Muslim, I'm Muslim. And Narendra Modi helped to orchestrate what was a mass slaughter of Muslims in Gujarat to the extent that we don't even believe there are Gujarati Muslims anymore. And when I tell someone that I am, it's a shock to them that is even the case. And this is someone who we should view in the same manner that we do Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a war criminal.
And speaking,
I wouldn't go to the press conference.
Speaking of Netanyahu, would any of you attend a joint press conference with Bibi Netanyahu?
No.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani has to leave early, so I want to get to these questions before you leave. Brad Lander wants to build housing on city-owned golf lots. Do you agree?
I think it's a good idea.
And do you agree?
In campaigns, you send out a lot of policy to see what sticks. I think one of the things...
Thank you.
I've been number 9 and 8, and now I just lost the rank. I'm never coming back. No, but I think with a lot of the ideas that we all have, and I sometimes leave the forum saying we have a $115 billion budget, and we've spent $200 billion, right? And I think part of what a mayor has to do, if it's going to be golf courses, it has to be viewed through the lens of infrastructure, water. It's not easy building these kind of facilities. I like my proposal because the vacant lot proposal that I've been pushing, we know we can get the buildings up. We know it's underground. We know the permitting. But again, I don't criticize aspirational ideas. I just think the next mayor is going to have to take some of these ideas and figure out what works and what doesn't.
Got it. All right, Mr. Lander.
I don't get to talk about why it's such a good idea.
Okay, sure. 20
It
seconds.
sounds like a gimmick, but it actually is a great idea. Who knew we had 12 golf courses, 2,500 acres? 4 of them are convenient to transit, are not in flood zones, and are perfect places to build whole new neighborhoods with new parks and open space and libraries and schools and 50,000 homes for the 9.01 million New Yorkers who gotta live somewhere.
But won't we have to alienate parkland to do that? And won't that be a state matter? And isn't that a naughty, controversial?
I mean, do you have to go to Albany for many of the
Okay.
things that we're talking about?
Okay.
You do, but there'll be more New Yorkers that have access to open space than by far than do right now, because it's not easy to get a tea time, and there'll be great new parks that are even the neighbors of those golf courses
Yeah.
could actually be on all the time.
Speaking of new sort of civic amenities, Mr. Lander, Mr. Mamdani wants to open city-owned grocery stores. Do you agree?
I'm not optimistic that the city can do a great job running grocery stores. I really am not. Like, I love public options. I got a public option for rooftop solar. I love expanding childcare and having massive amounts more of it. I love public schools. I think more public options in energy are a good idea. I am not confident that the city will be able to do a good job running grocery stores and keep prices down and good food for people in low-income neighborhoods.
And Mr. Stringer?
If you can build on golf courses, you can damn well have a grocery store too. But,
Really? You think that?
But
Build on a lot of land.
here's what
Don't run one grocery store.
Here's what I would say. I do think we have an existing infrastructure, especially in and around public housing developments. It's called the bodega community. And I think what I would do with subsidies and effort is to continue the work I did as borough president by bringing fresh produce, green bodegas into our communities. I think that's something that we can actually do fairly quickly. So that's what I would focus on. But again, one of the great things about running for mayor is you have the ability to put some of your ideas, not all of your ideas, in play. And you got to figure out when you get elected what you can do and can't do. Is that thing going to blow? Because I want to make one more point. The one thing I would say to you is the shelf life of a mayor and a governor around this country is getting shorter and shorter. So if you have real plans, the one thing we really don't talk about is what's the first 100 days, what's the first 6 months, what's the first year. If we lose that, and Eric Adams lost it immediately, then we're going to be in a situation where all of these debates and forums didn't mean anything because we didn't operationalize realistic planning. And I think we should just consider that as community.
And would you like to respond to the point about grocery stores?
I have to change my answer on the golf courses now. No.
We could put the grocery stores on 4 of them.
I think, part of... There we go. This is negotiations, live. I think what really startles me is that New York City already subsidizes supermarkets. We are set to subsidize corporate supermarkets to the tune of $140 million in the next few years in a program called City Fresh. It's done without any guarantee that they accept SNAP or WIC, any guarantee of collective bargaining, any guarantee that the groceries are actually cheaper. And what our proposal would be is less than half of the cost, $60 million, 1 in each borough, so that's 5 overall, to really earn the trust of New Yorkers. Because I hear the reason for suspicion and disbelief, and as someone who firmly believes in public goods, I believe we can bring public excellence back and actually showcase the ability to have a public option for produce, especially at a time of a crisis of affordability and a twin crisis of food deserts, where so many black and brown New Yorkers cannot find a place in a 5-block radius where they can even afford the groceries that are on offer.
3 more. You have to go. 3 more yes or no questions before you do.
This is Islamophobic.
Does Scott Stringer wants to put a cop on every subway train? Do you agree?
No. But I do like Scott.
Adrian Adams wants to establish a guaranteed basic income for over 20,000 homeless kids and youth. Do you agree?
I think it's interesting. I want to explore it.
And Andrew Cuomo wants New York City to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism, under which it is considered anti-Semitic to, quote, deny the Jewish people their right to self-determination by claiming that the state of Israel is a racist endeavor. Do you agree?
No, I don't. The only idea that I agree with from Andrew Cuomo is when he stole my idea about free buses in his transportation plan. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to leave early. Thank you. It's a real pleasure.
Thanks for being here. Thank you.
And then there were 2.
Okay, and we're almost wrapped up with the section. Mr. Lander, do you agree with Mr. Stringer's proposal to put a cop on every subway train?
No, I think there need to be officers in the subway system, but what I want to do is outreach workers who are getting folks off the subways into supportive housing.
And do you want to respond to that?
No, that's a predictable answer, and I have no problem with that. But look, you want to put mental health workers on the trains at 2 o'clock in the morning to help the people who are suffering. I'm a father. I would hope that we would also allow in moments where we need that police officer should be available. Right now, we have the lowest police count in the city, and you know what's happening? Putting on my former controller hat, we've now run up an overtime bill from $650 million to $1.3 billion. We have the lowest police count. I know people here may not like police, but let me tell you what you're not going to like, paying $650 million for overtime. Imagine if we just increase the force enough to reduce overtime and then give it to the greatest mental health workforce development program ever. Brad's right, we need more mental health workers, but again, coming in as mayor, you gotta pay for it. It's not all free, especially in the Trump administration.
Co-response is a good idea, and getting up to budgeted headcount so we have less overtime is also a good idea.
But just say it, it's hiring cops, Brad. It's not headcount. Say, I'm gonna hire cops. That's what you've been saying, and we agree on this.
He asked a different question, which was a cop on every train, and that was the question I answered.
That you said get us up to headcount, so I immediately intervened and took advantage of the situation.
How do you both feel about the speaker's guaranteed basic income?
I love the idea, and I'm trying really hard not to make more promises, especially with Donald Trump in office, than I believe I'll actually be able to get done and pay for. This goes to the 100 days, and ending street homelessness for people with serious mental illness, expanding and getting to universal child care and after school, and building 500,000 homes are the top 3 priorities. And if we're lucky to have enough money after that, I think universal basic income is a great idea.
Okay, so the speaker is piloting this, and I think it's wise when you offer a program to see how it's going to work, and I think it's a relatively small program today. But look, again, we have to think about the choices we make. If you do a program like that that is ramped up, we're then looking at how to fill the gaps in terms of affordable housing, in terms of programs for homeless people, for mental health folks. So again, someone has an idea and they become mayor, they have a right to explore it. I have different priorities as mayor. I don't think one is wrong or the other is wrong. I just think you can't do everything.
All right, and the final question from us, how do you both feel about Cuomo's IHRA definition of anti-Semitism proposal?
Look, I worry as the father of 2 Jewish kids about anti-Semitism. I think it's real. I understand not Cuomo, but others who want to make sure that there is a zero tolerance and a definition that meets the moment that we're in. We see more Asian hate. We see more hate, anti-Semitic hate. We see what the atrocities of October 7th. And we also see and we have seen the Muslim hate after 9/11, which I fought very hard to protect and work with the Muslim community. So nothing for me is set in stone, but I do think as long as these atrocities are continuing against the Jewish people and these hate crimes, you're going to see proposals, not Cuomo proposals. By the way, he's lied to the Jewish people about everything he was going to do to combat anti-Semitism. And as a Jew, I can tell you I am so offended by it, I can't stand it. But I do think we have to fully think this out in a way that brings some balance and some unity. And last thing I would tell you is, in my time not too long ago being in public office, when there was a SWAT sticker on a synagogue, the first people I called were the people in the Muslim community and said, we need you at a press conference. We all have to stand together. Clergy came, black ministers came. And when there were shootings and outside mosques, literally shootings of people because they were Muslim and people were racist and Islamophobia, we in the Jewish community came together. As mayor, I want to bring that back to us. We don't all have to agree internationally what's playing out, but once we're in New York, we got to work together. We don't have to love each other, but we have to respect each other, and I will bring that back as mayor of New York.
I mean, Scott is of course right that we all have a stake in combating hate crimes against Asian communities, against Muslim communities, against Jewish communities. Anti-Semitism is on the rise and has been the largest share of hate crimes in New York City over the last couple of years, and increasing. But the way in which Andrew Cuomo and Donald Trump and Eric Adams are trying to weaponize anti-Semitism and Jewish fears is abominable. And the fact that like he would go into that synagogue and call me and Adrian Adams and Zoran anti-Semites is disgusting, and I have called it out in the sharpest terms possible. Donald Trump doesn't get to decide that Chuck Schumer is not a good Jew, and Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams don't get to decide that I am not a good Jew. And IRA, this definition, it's like, look, I mean, I believe in Israel's right to exist as a Jewish and democratic state. I have been a critic of the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza since I was 20 years old, and I was the first Jewish elected official to call for a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of the hostages way back in late November, early December of 2023. At the same time, it is just factually inaccurate to say that all anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, and we know this because there are members of the Orthodox Jewish community, there are Satmar Hasidic Jews who are religiously non-Zionist or anti-Zionist, and there are Jews themselves who went to day school and go to synagogue and love our people who are anti-Zionist, and there are Palestinian peace activists who risk being killed by Hamas because they partner with Israeli Jews in efforts to bring peace, and IRA would make every single one of them either illegal or anti-Semitic. And like, that's the city we're gonna live in if Andrew Cuomo becomes mayor and tries to shut down protests like he actually did tonight for the tenants block, chasing them out of Abyssinian Church and forcing them to go to a whole other place. Like, it's not a game right now. And I mean, I joked before about all the things that he has done, but the city we will be living in, if he brings these just like bullying and near authoritarian ideas at this moment in time, it's a dangerous one. And I really do hope people will wake up and make sure he's not our next mayor.
All right. Thank you both so much for being here and, for being amazing sports. Really appreciate it. Now we're going to turn to our audience and members of the Public Works Organization for some questions for the candidates. Actually, I misspoke. I'm going to read them off the cards. But first, we're going to hear from... Okay. First, we're going to hear from Public Works members, and each candidate is going to have 60 seconds to answer.
Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. My name is Lily de Jesus, and I am from the South Bronx.
Can you say again? Your name is?
Lily de Jesus, and I am from the South Bronx. And I'm going to read this because it's really touching for me. Several weeks ago on 149th Street, I witnessed a young man on the pavement overdose, losing his life in front of me, and I felt helpless. I stood there, wept, and prayed for him as we waited for the EMS to arrive. And I wondered, how did you get here? How did we get here? Sadly, he represents many whose lifeless faces and bodies live around the hub. This is the poorest congressional district in the United States. Millions of tax dollars are paid to pharmacies, medical and methadone clinics, and law enforcement, and all operate in close proximity in the South Bronx. Yet, as a resident, it feels to me like it's a patchwork system that doesn't identify or treat the root cause. And I want to know, what innovative frameworks, vision, structures do you offer to prevent drugs from entering this community and to support the people of the South Bronx who suffer from drug addiction? Thank you.
When I was growing up in Washington Heights, and the heroin epidemic was in full bloom, there were so many of our friends who never made it out because they got hooked. And there were no programs. There was the Rockefeller drug laws that put pot smokers away for decades. That's why we fight for cannabis equity today. And what troubles me now is that we have another generation of kids who are getting hooked on opioids and very dangerous drugs that no one knows exactly where it comes from. And you're right, ma'am, they're lying on the streets in the same way they did a generation ago. The only difference is, what did we learn from that moment back then, and what are we going to do it back now? And we need to understand that there are a lot of amazing programs out there, but the management of the city agencies looking at ways to see how we actually solve these problems, whether it be in the South Bronx or the opioid crisis in Staten Island. And I want to assure you that part of my platform is to rebuild these agencies and make them accountable.
Thank you, Mr.
to
Stringer.
actually getting kids off
time.
the streets
Thank you.
and to help and supportive housing.
Okay. Mr. Lander.
Yeah, Lily, thank you for the question. I don't think it's a coincidence it's the Public Works member that asked a harder hitting question than these damn good journalistic outfits. I mean, they're good, but this is hard, and I don't want to pretend to you like you're right. We have been failing at this over and over and over again. I was up at the 3rd Avenue bid not that long ago on 149th Street, and I went to St. Mary's Corner of Harm Reduction, which is doing good work in the neighborhood, and yet there are syringes on the ground and young people exposed to it. I mean, they were even just saying, can't we get the money to get the syringes off the ground so our young people aren't walking to and from school across this? So these are hard problems. I mean, I come from the community development and affordable housing movement, and a generation ago, we did have big things like Bed-Stuy Restoration Corporation and Banana Kelly, and I think we need to get back to that, where there's like real resources in a coordinated effort in a neighborhood to do something about it.
Mr. Stringer, you can, if you need to leave, that's okay. You can, yeah.
Do you mind?
No. Thank you so much for being
Did
here.
everybody hear enough? This was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Nice job. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks?
Does that mean that I'm supposed to talk to Brad by himself, or?
Oscar.
All right. Apologies. Oscar Eustace, Creative Director of the Public Theater. Please ask your question.
Yeah, Brad, hi. Listen, thanks for being here. A couple of weeks ago, the public, like theaters across the country, got a letter from the NEA pulling back money that they had already awarded us because the work that we do no longer fits with the priority of the administration. We're lucky enough to live in New York City, one of the only cities in the United States that has always understood that culture matters. And that's fantastic. But at the same time, we're living in an environment where we have Broadway tickets that are costing almost $1,000, and that's not scalpers, that's regular tickets. We're rapidly moving into where, even in this city, culture is separating into culture for the wealthy and not very much culture for everybody else. The city government, which has been in many ways very supportive of culture, in the last 15 years, the city budget has gone up 89%. The budget for culture has gone up 10%. And we're in real danger of not keeping up with the promise that the culture belongs to everybody. And I want to know what you would do as mayor to try to make sure that the pride of New York City, the glory of New York City that you talked about, which is our culture, is accessible to everybody in New York. And how are you going to make sure that the city keeps promoting and supporting that?
First of all, let's hear it for Oscar Eustace. I mean, it is true for me, and I'm guessing for many of you, that like my best, most joyful moments in this city our free culture. I mean, last night Shayna performed at a fundraiser of mine. That 12th night at the Public Theater, which was a Public Works production, like, that's the best live theater I ever saw. But also First Saturday at the Brooklyn Museum and the Celebrate Brooklyn and Summer Stage concerts, like so many of the best, like the most joyful times in my kids' lives and my family's lives are free culture in New York City. But it's not just that. I mean, the reason the city is what it is, why people want to live here, why businesses start here, why people create and grow here, why we survived after the pandemic is culture. So it is a smart investment of New York City. I mean, the way we show the opposite of Donald Trump and the opposite of this MAGA craze is by investing in inclusive multiracial democracy, and that requires showing we can actually deliver it. So you need a mayor who can keep the streets clean, make the place safer, end street homelessness, but it will absolutely make sense to put more New York City resources into what the NEA and the federal government is cutting so we can maintain a free culture that all New Yorkers can enjoy. Also, I'll say one more thing here. The first summer of the Lander administration is going to be pool party summer. Because I love the public pools, but getting into them is like an airport security line. And it is, but it should be like First Saturday at the Brooklyn Museum or like one of those concerts with like food and vendors and music and swimming lessons. And yes, that will take money for culture, and we're going to provide it. I really did not mean to wind up on stage.
Okay, Comptroller Lander, are you down to answer 2 questions from the audience?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So the first one, amazing segue. Under Eric Adams, pool lifeguards have been cut. Denying communities the opportunity to swim for free in the summer. What will you do to remedy this?
Yeah, you can't have pool party summer without lifeguards.
True.
So you better get busy on day one. I mean, and this will take a little bit of money, but offering the resources and the training classes so that people could get the training they need to get the CPR and the lifeguard certification is doable between January 1st when I take office. And I would like to get the pools open on Memorial Day rather than on June 30th, a month later. And that will be enough time to do it.
All right, and then last one, you can tell what our audience members care about, the important things. Should there be criminal summonses for cyclists for riding on the sidewalk or running lights?
No. There are tickets for offenses, but there should not be criminal summonses. And also for violations when it's a DoorDash or Seamless or Uber Eats, the app companies should be held accountable for the trips that they are making all that money.
That's it. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you guys, this was fun.
Tell people to go to the library.
Yeah. Thank you so much to everyone for attending our forum. As you may know, local news across New York State and city is dying. Brad, I'm not sure why I'm facing you. Brad Lander, as you may know.
I have to say this then, though, because I met Akash when he was 8 years old, leading a walk in Central Park called Kids for a Better Future that literally was like raising money. I think that year was for the Bhopal disaster. And like the fact that you started NYS Focus, and now you guys got to give money to NYS Focus and Hellgate if you care about independent media.
This is why you're last, Brad. This is why you're last.
Thank you, Comptroller. As a state, half of our newspapers have died in just 20 years. Local papers that used to have hundreds of reporters, Newsday used to have 600 reporters as of a couple decades ago, are being sold for scraps. The big national papers based in New York have shuttered or downsized their local bureaus. Hellgate and New York Focus are part of a new wave of scrappy, independent outlets that are filling the void. And we cannot do it without you. So please consider supporting us. You'll see our websites on your programs, buy our merch, which you can find downstairs. And please join us for a drink downstairs at the library. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks.
Sorry for the wait.